So kind of to talk about kind of more of the mission info. So yeah, I did serve in La Union, the hottest part of the mission. So boundary-wise, you'll find out that the boundaries, even though El Salvador is really small, it's a really small country, the boundaries are huge. So in this case, in La Union, it's this big city, and there's only 4 missionaries to cover it, and so we got half the city. And so we had a lot of area to cover, and so much area that there'd be places where you just wouldn't even go to because it'd be so far away, and it'd take too much time to travel there, because there's places in your mission field that would take a couple hours bus ride just to go down there. I remember one time with my companion that we rode all the way down there, and it was like an hour ride. And so transportation-wise, we'd always take the bus. It was either bus or walking. And so we'd get our allowance for the month, and a lot of it was used on transportation. The buses were always crowded. So especially in the mornings when everybody was getting up and going to work. So when we need to go places, buses would be crazy crowded. To the point, I don't know if you've seen places outside of the U.S., maybe throughout the world, that had a whole bunch of buses, but they'd be so crowded that people would just hang on to them on the outside, and that's really how it happened. And me being so claustrophobic, it was rough. But you had to be careful. You had to make sure that your bag you had to keep it in check, because you didn't want anybody stealing anything out of your bag. The church in that specific area, there was only one ward for the whole city. And out of the 4 missionaries, it was a ward. It wasn't a branch. It wasn't a group. And it was a decent size. So the ward there is really strong. The members are amazing. The members are super humble, more humble than you could ever think of. We had our own cocinera, so it's basically one of the members. She'd cook for us, and she'd do our laundry for us. So we'd pay her for the prices of the food and for laundry. The money there is all U.S. currency. I think they went away with that like 20 years ago. They went away with their own currency and used U.S. currency. So it was pretty easy doing the switch, knowing what money to use. There were members there that were inflicted in ways, medical, that they couldn't, get. So like, for instance, there was a sister that was pretty much almost all the way blind. But she'd always be there in the mornings when in the afternoon, where we go and we eat lunch with the cocinera, with that sister missionary, with sister in the ward, not sister missionary, but the sister in the ward. The blind sister would be there too, and they'd be making tortillas for the day. So our cocinera, she'd run her own shop out of her house. And you'll see that a lot in El Salvador. There's a lot of little shops that would sell just a whole bunch of junk food, or bags of rice or bags of beans or whatever. And they'd sell tortillas. So in the morning, that'd be their main thing. They'd make tortillas in the morning, and how they made them. It's amazing how fresh our tortillas are. So the day before, they would be corn on the cob before they'd be tortillas. So they take all the corn off the cob, and then they put it in this big bowl. They would then boil it overnight, and then in the morning it'd be all this cooked corn, and they take it to a grinder and they grind it all up. They grind it all the way up into this big mush, and they'd add a little bit more water to it, and then that's what they'd use to make their tortillas. It was as simple as that, and their tortillas are amazing. I remember being fed so well in that area. So even though the ward was really strong there was a ton of churches, like a ton. Like you could go one day and like meet a whole bunch of people and all be from a different church that they went to. And so there was a ton of churches. There was, I don't even know all of them, but there were so many. Like I remember just walking down the street, like either a Saturday or a Sunday, and there'd be these people just wailing and yelling in their churches. They put their whole heart into it, and so being able to be there was still as beautiful as it would be at any of the churches, here. The spirit was always strong. The members were always willing to help, to come out with the missionaries to help out in any way they could, especially with all of the gringos or whatever, all of the missionaries that didn't know the language. They'd always be out there to help them. So the temple, there's actually a temple in El Salvador, even though it's small. It got dedicated in 2013, actually. No, 2012. I was wrong. In 2012, it got dedicated, just smack dab in the middle of San Salvador. It was just outside of our mission. There's 3 missions in El Salvador. There's the El Salvador, San Salvador East, and that was the mission I was in. There's the West, and then there's the West Belize mission. So so that last one covers a country, Belize, as well. Still, even with it being so small, it was like, I think from end to end, from one end of the country to the other end, it was a good 12 or 14 hour bus ride. I remember when we would travel from La Union to the mission home, that'd be the longest bus ride out of everyone. So we'd have to get up at like 2 in the morning and hop on the bus and just travel. And the thing is traveling for hours, it's like $1 per city. And so with a 6-hour bus ride, it'd only be like $6. And then taxis were a big thing there too. So you have to take a taxi to places. So if I were to say the church there was pretty established. I mean, with there being a temple, it was really, really established. A stake would cover several cities, and so a stake there would have just like a regular stake here, would have like 6 or 7 stakes, but in that would be a whole zone would have a stake, kind of thing. So and there was only like 7 or 8 stakes in the whole mission, and so there was only that many zones.